o'clock, I'll call this meeting of the Centralia Board of Aldermen to order. Roll call, please, Heather.
Alderman Lee.
Here.
Alderman Foreman.
Yes.
Alderman Wilkins.
Here.
Alderman Flett. Yes. Alderman Ward.
Here.
Alderman Magley.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum tonight. Official business can't take place. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Yes. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Consent agenda. Pretty short agenda tonight. So.
We have consent to adopt the agenda?
I've added that in there because technically you could adjust the agenda, so this.
Yeah. We adopted it. So motion will be in order to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Accounts payable over $12.50, the amount of $185,982.61. Any questions? This should wrap up all of our outstanding bills for the last fiscal year. Being that tomorrow is the last day of the fiscal year.
There are no official plans to celebrate the new year.
We'll take care of that.
Make a motion to accept the accounts payable in the amount of $185,982.61.
Motion is second to accept accounts payable over $12.50, the amount of $185,982.61. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, presentation by Brian Hefner from MoDOT. He's going to be discussing the current state of affairs that MoDOT is experiencing and the way ahead, and give you some background information. And so, floor is yours, Brian.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Alderman, Alderpersons. Appreciate you giving me some time to come talk to you tonight. And essentially, this is something that we've been talking with our regional planning commission about. I think that's where the mayor got a lot of information and wanted me to share it with the community. So my name is Brian Hafner. I'm the area engineer for the Mark Twain Regional Council of Governments area, which is just right north of here. So MoDOT's Northeast District, Hannibal covers Aldermen County, Randolph County, and we also take care of Highway 22 through town here. I work out of Mexico and cover the 8 counties in Mark Twain. We are going out and talking to folks about the current situation with transportation funding in Missouri and where we're at today. In 2010, MoDOT's construction budget, our program, 5-year construction program, our construction budget at that point was about $1.2 billion a year. Okay? And in 2017, it's going to be $325 million, 2017 and beyond. And there are several reasons why it's much lower now, but basically we're back to our base funding level. Amendment 3 was passed in 2004. It required us to sell bonds and get an infusion of cash, and we were able to do a lot of good things with those funds. The economic stimulus package that came through the federal government gave us some additional money that kind of boosted our construction program for a while. But now we're back to the basic funding that MoDOT gets, and the majority of that funding comes from fuel taxes. So when you go to the pump, you pay 17 cents in state fuel tax, and you pay 18.4 cents in federal fuel tax. Okay? The federal tax goes to Washington. Congress says whatever they want to do with it, send it back to us. It comes in different programs to use for maintaining highways, replacing bridges. Some of it has to be used for things like sidewalks. So if you see us building sidewalks out and about, it's not that that's our priorities. That's the only way we can spend some of those funds that come back to us from Washington. So, you know, the fuel tax, the state fuel tax was last increased in 1992. was increased by 6 cents at that time, 2 cents in 92, 2 cents in 94, 2 cents in 96, kind of phased in approach. But that's been 20 years since there's been an increase in that fuel tax. The federal fuel tax was last increased in 93, that's also been over 20 years. Okay? If you think about the cars that you drive today are much more fuel efficient than they were 20 years ago. People may be driving the same amount of miles, but they're using less gas. And when you use less gas, that means there's less fuel tax money that comes in to pay for roads and bridges. So that's kind of how we ended up where we're at today. And you also add in the effects of inflation. Concrete and steel and asphalt that we use to build and maintain roads and bridges are 2 to 3 times as much as they were 20 years ago. Okay, so there's just not enough money to take care of everything that we've got anymore. And the information that I passed out to you there shows essentially our commission asked our management to look at the $325 million construction program that we'll have beginning in 2017, which for us actually begins July of 2016. Our fiscal year runs from July through June. So the middle of next year is what we're talking about. We'll have $325 million in our construction program. It actually requires at least $485 million a year, $485 to $500 million to be able to take care of our entire 34,000 miles of road, 10,400 bridges, keep them in the condition that they're in today. So you look at some of our roads, people may say we're not taking good enough care of today. Well, keeping them in the condition they're in today requires that much funding. We don't have enough money to take care of everything, so what are you going to do? You basically have 2 choices. You can say, we'll take that $325 million and spread it around over the entire system and then kind of watch everything deteriorate together. Or, and what our commission has decided to do, the more prudent approach is to say, we're going to take a system of roads and use those construction funds to keep those roads in the condition they're in today, and then do what we can with the rest of the roads. And if you look on the back of the sheet that I passed out to you, that shows Missouri's primary system. And that's a system of roads that has been around for a long time. This is nothing new that we just came up with and said these are the roads we need to take care of today. But the primary system are basically those roads that connect our communities together. And I do have more copies of this if anybody else wants them. So the primary system, and that's what we're calling kind of Missouri's 325 system, or a 325 plan, because that's the amount of funding that we'll have for the next several years to be able to take care of our roads and bridges. We can maintain that level for a while. Eventually, we won't even be able to do that if our funding doesn't change. Okay? So that's kind of where we're at today. We know that we're going to have deteriorating condition on our supplementary system. So the primary roads will be able to keep in pretty good shape. Supplementary roads, which Route Z, Route F, FF, all those lettered routes, you're going to see them deteriorate even more than they may be today. You're going to see, and we've already got in Northeast District, we've got 2 bridges that are currently closed. One in Scotland County on Route H, one in Macon County on Route T over Thomas Hill Lake. So anybody that has a boat and goes up there fishing cannot get across the lake anymore. Okay? That bridge has been closed for going on 2 months now. We found a hole in the bridge deck, went and looked at it, looked underneath, the girders were crushed because of probably an overweight load that went over it. We can't afford to fix it, it's going to stay closed. Okay, we're going to see those kind of bridge closures increasing around the state as we don't have enough funds to be able to maintain everything. So that's kind of where we're at. What are we going to do about it? Well, MoDOT really can't do anything about it. It's not our, we don't have the ability to raise funds. So our responsibility is to take the funds that we get and try to spend them as wisely as we can to maintain our roads and bridges. So we're relying on the legislature or the people of Missouri to determine what kind of system they want and how we want to fund it. So last fall, you may remember Amendment 7 was on the ballot that would have done a lot of really good things, including rebuilding I-70, some other projects all around the state, replacing bridges, all kinds of good stuff. That failed, unfortunately, and so it leaves us going forward with this 325 plan. Some folks are saying, well, you guys are just punishing us because we didn't pass the Amendment 7, so now you're closing bridges and things. That's not what we're doing. This is reality. This is where we're at. That's why we needed the Amendment 7. But, so anyhow, going forward, what are we going to do? So right now there are a few bills in the legislature. There's one in particular that would solve those issues. And I didn't clarify that, one of the reasons we're at 325 million is because beginning again in 2017, next July, we will not have enough state funds to be able to match those federal funds. So I talked about the 18 cents that goes to Washington. In order to get those back, we have to match them 4 to 1. One state dollar for 4 federal dollars. Okay? Our projects are 80-20 federal, state. We don't have enough state funds, then we can't match those federal funds. Then your fuel tax money that you send to Washington doesn't come back to Missouri. It goes to some other state that does have enough state funds to be able to match those federal funds. So you're gonna be going to gas pump paying the tax that's paying for roads in Iowa or Arkansas or some other state. Iowa just passed a 10-cent fuel tax increase in March, beginning of March. Arkansas last year passed a half-cent sales tax increase. They'll have plenty of state funds to be able to match those federal funds that we can't use because we don't have enough state funding. So the two real issues then are being able to match those federal funds and being able to take care of our entire system instead of just the primary routes of 325 system. So there is a bill in the legislature that would solve those two issues.
That's Senate Bill 540.
That is Senate Bill 540, correct. It's what they're calling a 2+2+2+ indexing. They will increase the fuel tax by 2 cents this year, 2 cents next year, 2 cents the following year, and the year after that, begin adjusting the state fuel tax according to the consumer price index. So it could go up or down depending on what the CPI does. Generally, it goes up. Inflation increases a little bit each year, but it would tie it to the CPI, which would help to adjust it for inflation. So we don't get it would help offset some of those increases in concrete and steel and so on and so forth. So that's the bill that's out there. From what I have heard recently, there's not a whole lot of traction on that. It was heard in the Senate Transportation Committee before the legislature went on their spring break. But there's not a lot of traction, especially in the House right now. And so there are some folks that have, I think maybe the RPCs have sent letters into the legislature to encourage them to find a way to fund transportation, whether it's that bill or some other method. The 2+2+2 would be a total 6-cent fuel tax increase. It would cost the average Missouri family about the cost of a gallon of milk per month. So it's not something that's going to have a huge impact on families. Right now, the average family spends about $23 a month on fuel, on state transportation taxes. So this will be a small increase to that, $2 to $4 a month. With that, I'll kind of open up any questions that you might have, or Mr. Mayor, if there's anything I missed from the RPC presentations that you've heard, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, I'll kind of fill in a little bit. Dave Sylvester was the one that spoke at the RPC last week, and he indicated that, you know, the transportation funds that's raised from the sales tax of gasoline does not only fund the transportation network. Right off the top comes all the highway patrol funds, and then there's something else that's funded. All this is before the highway department gets their money.
Department of Revenue takes a small amount because they charge us to collect the tax.
Right.
The highway patrol funding comes from the fuel tax, the transportation funds.
There's several other different departments that take their slice of the pie before MoDOT gets any money for roads and bridges and, you know, equipment, maintenance equipment. And to kind of, they saw this coming several years ago, so that's when they started paring back their operation. You know, they closed 160 facilities, or
One right here in town.
one right here in town, laid off, or
20% of our
attrition,
workforce.
yeah, like 1,100 people or something like that. I mean, they've cut back to where they can't cut back anymore.
They closed the one in Hallsville too, didn't they?
We're in the, we're in the process of getting rid of that facility as
Yeah.
well, trying to consolidate that with the Columbia building.
But if the Senate does not act and does not take any action on this, with the 325 plan that MoDOT has developed, it also restricts and reduces the amount of cost share that is given to the cities and counties. Okay, if the 2+2+2 plan or something similar to that is passed, then MoDOT would have enough funds to match that $160 million, so they don't have to send it back to the federal government. They will be able to take care of the entire 34,000 miles of road, whereas the 325 plan focuses on the main 8,000 miles of road in Missouri. And then it would reinstate that cost share program, and that's what I was talking about. 15% would come to the cities, 15% goes to the county, and I guess MoDOT gets the rest of that.
That's out of the fuel tax,
Yes.
and currently 15% of the fuel tax, the state fuel tax, goes to cities, 15% goes to counties. This 2+2+2 would also add additional funds to cities and counties through that same mechanism.
Okay.
So the counties get funds to take care of the county roads, the city gets funds to take care of the city streets. You would have additional funds for streets here in Centralia if it did pass.
Right.
A couple of numbers that you mentioned, I said in 2017 we'll not be able to match federal funds. That's going to be about $167 million in 2017. 2018 and beyond, that grows to $400 million a year. Every year that you're paying in taxes is going to go somewhere else.
Okay, so we're still the lowest fuel tax state in the country?
It's
One
like,
of the very lowest.
Yeah,
One of
it's
the very lowest. So when you hear on TV that we have lower taxes than the surrounding states, it's not because our gas is cheaper, it's because our taxes are cheaper.
right.
That is correct.
We're spending less money, or we're putting less money into our roads
Yeah.
because, well, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
This process, this bill does not have to have voter approval, right? It's just a legislative approval.
That is correct. There's still some question about that because there's the Hancock Amendment that limits how much the legislature can increase taxes in any given year.
Right.
Okay? This is a 2-cent fuel tax increase each year for 3 years. 2 cents a year, 2 cents in 1 year is below the Hancock limit.
Right. And
So
that's
there's
the
a-
limit that the legislature can
Right.
approve without a vote of the people.
So there's no question that they could raise a 2-cent fuel tax increase in any given year. There is some question, and Missouri really hasn't had any challenges to the Hancock Amendment because we haven't done much tax increase since it was passed back in the 90s. So there's some question as to whether if you do one bill that covers 3 years, does that still stay underneath the limit or not? Probably does, very likely does, but that's still a question that's kind of being worked out.
And one final thing that this 2+2+2 would do is it would allow MoDOT to complete limited planning studies to meet future needs.
Right. It would let us do in some small, kind of local, regional type projects. It would not let us do any big projects like finishing 4-lane corridors, like rebuilding I-70, which desperately needs to be done. It still wouldn't address that issue. So there still are additional funding needs out there beyond. This 2+2+2 plus indexing is basically just allowing us to stop the bleeding, to keep your tax money from going to some other state, to let us take care of our entire system so we don't have these bridges that are closed and people that can't get where they need to go without going to 20 miles before.
If you all saw the legislative update from the Municipal League today, they're talking there about making I-70 a toll road. One of the things that, in the event that happened, they wouldn't realize any funding from those tolls for about 7 years, I think is what they said, because you gotta build the tolls, booths, and you gotta do this and that, and, you know, it'd just be a 7-year process before you would realize any type of funding from that.
You have to go through the design process, the construction process to actually rebuild the road.
Right.
Be able to charge, you can't charge tolls out there today because it's an existing road.
Right.
So there's some challenges to that as well. But it would take a good amount of time before we could actually begin collecting any fees from that.
Yeah.
tolling on I-70 wouldn't solve all the other issues either, it would take care of that issue. It would free up a little bit of funding that could go to some other places, but it still wouldn't solve the 325 system to take care of all of our roads.
Well, it certainly makes sense. I have no doubt that our legislature will not do this, but it makes too much
Well,
sense.
Right. And one of the reasons I asked MoDOT to come in tonight is to give you all the basic history of where MoDOT was, we are now, and what the future looks like, and some different options in the legislature. I know a conglomerate of mayors from the Kansas City area has all signed on a bill, on a letter of support for MoDOT to encourage the legislator to take action. So I guess in the future, I'm gonna be continuing to monitor where the legislature's at and probably ask for the same type of letter of support in the future. Not gonna do it tonight. The end of the fiscal year is coming up here, June 30th for the state, and ours is actually tomorrow. But,
Well, I should mention that if something does not happen in the legislature this session, we will lose federal funds, because even if they wait and pass something next year, again, going through the process of collecting the taxes and getting it to MoDOT would take too long for us to be able to still be able to match federal funds in July of next year. Okay, so we lose some amount of funds if they don't do something this year. It might not be a lot depending on what they do next year, if they do anything. Next year is an election year, governor's race, all your representatives are gonna be campaigning, so you can take that for what it's worth. MoDOT we're out trying to educate folks, so that's kind of why I'm here tonight, is make sure you all understand where we're at with the transportation funding and understand all the issues involved. If you have the opportunity to talk to friends and neighbors and let them know what's going on, you can go to MoDOT's website. I think the website is on the page there, talks about tough choices ahead, kind of gives you information on where we're at. So we've got a lot of information out there on this issue and what it's gonna mean to Missourians if we can't match federal funds and we can't take care of all of our roads and bridges.
right. And I would encourage all the aldermen and people in the city of Centralia to contact the legislators and let them know, hey, it's time to do something. It's a no-brainer. We don't want to send $167 million back to the federal government and let some other state realize our fuel tax. So, appreciate you coming in tonight. And we've got your contact information if we've got any questions or anything like that. And I'll talk to Mike and shoot all that stuff.
If I could,
Yeah.
I mean, the setup of the distribution of the roads in the state of Missouri, you guys have more roads under your control than most states.
That is correct.
Because a lot of which is probably better for all, has that been, I mean, when the city of Centralia took over part of Route Z at one point, I would hate to think that would be a general strategy. Is that being discussed at any?
It's been discussed. There's not a whole lot of appetite for doing that. And what you're referring to, in most states, our lettered routes would be county roads.
Yeah.
And in the 50s, MoDOT took over all those roads, and at that point, I think it was a 2-cent fuel tax increase that was imposed to be able to get Missouri out of the mud, is what it was called, to get those roads up to a paved road. Very successful, but unfortunately that 2 cents from 1952 really doesn't buy as much today as it did back then. So without an increase in that fuel tax, that's kind of, again, part of the reason why we're at where we're at today. Missouri has more miles of road than Illinois and Kansas combined. More miles of state road.
In cities and counties aren't allowed to pass a gasoline tax because of this agreement that we made many, many years ago. So, if I remember correctly.
That very well could be. I'm not, I need to talk to your city attorney about the details on that. You could have sales tax to fund roads in the city.
Sales tax, we can,
I think, right now, the state of New Jersey is the highest grossing state of income per mile. And they have about half as many roads as
Brian, right here, as we said on the 1st of April, going to the end of the state's fiscal year, how's MoDOT's budget looking? I mean, can you look at it to July 1st and see red, or everything equal,
Okay.
where we need to be?
We, and I think the mayor mentioned that we've seen this coming for a long time. So all of our planning and budgeting takes this into account. So we will not be in the red. We'll take care of our bills and everything. But our planning process is, where our budget works is, we have money set aside for our construction program. And that's the $325 million. MoDOT's total budget is still gonna be about $1.7 billion next year and the year after. So we have a lot of funds, but those funds are used for a lot of other things. And you mentioned the patrols money comes out of that, the Department of Revenue's money comes out of that. All of the money that we use to pay employees, which is important to me and many other people, comes out of that. The money that we use to buy asphalt to patch potholes, to buy salt so we can keep the roads clear no matter what, and buy the equipment, all that kind of stuff comes out of that. So really kind of what's left over is that construction program that we use to pay contractors to resurface roads, to build bridges and all those kind of things. So we still will be in the black. In order to maintain that $325 million level though, we actually have some cash that's being spent down over the course of the next 5 years. And that's why I said we can't sustain that $325 million level forever. We will eventually get to the point where we can't do that. If it goes on much longer, then we'll get to the point where we can't do anything other than our normal maintenance.
All the, from what Dave and Mike told me, is all of the current projects that are planned and funded for the next 6 or 18 months are going to continue. However, any new planning or new construction projects is going to cease with the 325 plan.
We do have, the 325 is still a construction program. We still will have contractors doing work. It will just be on the primary system, so there won't be any work on supplementary roads. Highway 22 is a primary road. Projects that we have in our current construction program will still be done. Route E, the road is just north of 22 towards Mexico. That bridge will be replaced this summer because it's already in the program. It's on a supplementary road. It was already a commitment. So this, we're talking about things going forward next year, the year after. Speaking of next year, Highway 22 will be a project next year to smooth it out, diamond grinding. So it won't get asphalt on top, we'll smooth out the concrete next summer. So.
You're not gonna stop the bridge over the Missouri River halfway?
No,
Thank you.
try not to do that.
All right. All right, again, Mike, Brian, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you all very much, I appreciate your time, and I'll just close with, this isn't a place where MoDOT wants to be, it's the reality of where we are today. We're hoping that something will happen in the legislature this year, so we appreciate all the support we can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Action agenda? Finance, nothing scheduled, is that still the case?
Yes.
Permits, licenses, same? Legal, authorizing the mayor of the city of Centralia, Missouri to sign an agreement to amend the existing collective bargaining agreement with laborers local 773 to amend the pay scale. This is the ordinance requires 2 readings.
This, just, at March 16th, board meeting, the board approved the annual budget and the wage and salary rates for the year that begins April 1 with the first pay period that begins April 6th. This ordinance allows the mayor to actually sign the addendum to the collective bargaining agreement, which was not included in the previous ordinance, we got a letter from Regina Thursday. So Thursday or Friday, and so we just make sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. This will simply restates the pay scale for the represented worker and amends the CBA to reflect this new wage scale, which we've already adopted in the budget.
All right. Alderman Volrath, would you introduce us on this?
27, 48.
27 what again? Sorry.
48.
27, 48. I move that bill number 2748 be given its first reading by title only.
Second?
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2748 be given its first reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
A bill to create an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Centralia, Missouri to sign an agreement to amend the existing collective bargaining agreement with Laborers International Union of North America Local 773 and to amend the pay scale. I move that bill number 2748 be given its second reading by title only.
Second?
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2748 be given its second reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Continue, please.
A bill to create an ordinance entitled, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Centralia, Missouri to sign an agreement to amend the existing collective bargaining agreement with Laborers International Union of North America Local 773 and to amend the pay scale. I move that bill number 2748 be adopted by roll call vote.
Second?
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2748 be adopted by roll call vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Roll call vote, please, Debbie.
Alderman Magley.
Yes.
Alderman Volrath.
Yes.
Alderman Ward.
Yes.
Alderman Wilkins.
4.
Alderman Borman.
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
All right, by your vote, bill number 2748 passes and now becomes ordinance number.
2805.
Right. Next, purchasing, authorizing 4th of July fireworks display at City Recreation Park. This is a resolution requires one reading.
We approve a resolution similar to this pretty much every year. We have the proposal from Jan Displays, and if the city accepts their proposal, which this year is exactly $4,000, which is exactly the amount in the budget, and we send them payment by April 5th, we'll get that bonus amount of fireworks this year.
Outstanding. Alderman Wilkins, would you introduce us with this?
I'm not sure. Resolution? Or bill number, please.
2749.
I move that bill number 2749 be given its first and only reading by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2749 be given its first and only reading by title only. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
A resolution to issuing a permit to the city of Centralia, Missouri to conduct a special fireworks display at City Recreation Park. I move that bill number 2749 be adopted by roll call vote.
Sorry.
I have a motion and a second that bill number 2749 be adopted by a roll call vote. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Volrath.
Yes.
Alderman Ward.
Yes.
Alderman Wilkins.
4.
Alderman Borman.
Yes.
Alderman Lee.
Yes.
All right, by your vote, bill number 2749 passes and now becomes ordinance, resolution number.
R 1503.
Anyone have any as may arises?
Real quick, we received 8 letters of interest from firms wishing to design the Jefferson Street sidewalk project. We have the committee in place and expect to have a recommendation to the Public Works and Public Utilities meeting by their May meeting, which in an ordinance for the full board meeting that month. This will allow us time if we want to interview some firms. One of the criteria that we may not use is the price. So, the only thing we can do, if we get done, pick a firm, and they say, and their quoted price is so high that it isn't, we are then able to either negotiate with them or ask our second.
Okay. All right. Any more as may arise?
So I had one other.
Go ahead.
I did interview a young woman for for an internship this summer, and I offered her the position, but she had accepted another offer, so I'm still looking.
Okay. All right. Do you want to take a moment and welcome Sarah to our city council meeting today?
I promise none of this is gonna be seen by anybody.
Sarah used to work at the police department as a dispatcher, seems like now 100 years ago, but now she tells me that she's doing photojournalism.
That's one part. This is this class, so, but I promise the professor's the only one who'll see it, and it will be gone, I promise.
I got my haircut for this tonight.
It's all on the,
That's very nice.
It's all on camera.
it's all on
Sarah.
camera anyway.
Oh,
They
okay.
get posted on the internet each time, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But
It's posted on Facebook.
I have a ad that if it looks okay, for lack of a better term, to sell that used police car.
Okay.
It's parked out there. If it reads okay, and I think it does, I went over it 2 or 3 times. It would cost me, help me out, James, us, $58, a 2x4 ad for 1 week, right?
I wasn't in on that discussion. If that's what you think, that's probably what it is.
I think so. We'll run it, we'll put it in the paper for this coming week, and then the next week, we'll open up the bids. I think I put an $800 mini on it,
Okay.
and then declared that the vehicle needs some brake work, but other than that, the only part that Mr. Harline will have to do, if it's not too pressurized, is open the bids sometime after 7 o'clock on what would be our public safety
Okay.
April meeting.
Perfect.
We'll either get a bid or we won't.
All right. Thank you.
And I'd like to arrange to get a check for that after the first of the month, so I can go get that car and get it up and running.
Yep, I said about that over.
We do have to close out our fiscal year, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna take a little bit of work to get all of that done to make sure that it's closed out before we can write checks for the new fiscal year.
Oh, I don't worry about that.
Yeah, if they'll send us a bill, we'll.
Yeah. So what, sometime this or next week, you think?
The end of this week would be better, the end of this week, first of next.
Oh, first, we're all good.
Okay,
I just
trust
don't
you.
want to drag on and on.
That's fine.
They'll trust you.
Didn't you just hear they're about out of money? They're
That's-
not gonna let
yeah, no,
nothing
it's-
go.
Yeah, it's MoDOT, it's not Highway Patrol. Highway Patrol's gonna get their money.
Keep that in mind, though, that
Yeah.
every time that Troll gets a call out to go somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
that's all highway funds.
Yeah.
Highway funds are paying for that, particularly, even if it's reimbursed.
Yeah.
But you get a call out to go to someplace for civil unrest, that's all highway funds to fuel those cars, that's all highway funds to pay for that salary,
Yeah, and training and everything.
period.
Yeah, but how long have they known this is coming on though?
Well, I don't
The
know.
highway department's known for quite a while, and they've tried to get several things passed, and everything has failed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they knew it was coming on, they shouldn't have built a new building in Hallsville 5 years ago and then shut it down this year either.
Well,
They're gonna shut down that new thing over there,
It's done.
over there.
At
on
all.
63.
Yeah,
done.
they're just trying to sell the building now or.
Yeah, it's
move it.
closed, it's
Yeah.
done. There's nobody running out of Hallsville shit.
Nope.
And no telling what that cost them to build that.
Yeah. But again, that was one of those things that was in the 5-year plan, so I don't know
But
what
if
the.
they knew they were hurting, they probably
Yeah.
shouldn't have built it.
well, they were expecting that something would pass, and that the legislature would do
Yeah.
something to help them.
Yeah.
Well, okay, to end that out, as soon as we can get up and running there,
All right,
get them cars.
thanks.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Copy that.
All right, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.